Hello everyone, it is July, it's summer, and I'm here for another album review. Yay! So it's been longer than I anticipated, but the good news is that I have another two album reviews planned for later this month, so you won't have as long to wait, so yay! So, without further ado, what is my album today? Well, my album today is this. Get it the right way round. It's Emerson, Lake and Palmer, the debut album from 1970. The band comprises of Keith Emerson on keyboards, Greg Lake on guitars, and Carl Palmer on percussion. So, without further ado, let's dig in. So let's start by looking at the front cover. It's very interesting, isn't it? We've got this dove, bird, creature. Well, it is a bird, isn't it? And we've got this kind of head silhouette, like a profile of a head, which kind of continues on back. You can see the front of the head there. And this kind of wash of colours. It's quite subtle, isn't it? And yeah, it's very atmospheric, and I really feel like this ties with the album very well. It was actually painted by Nick Dartnell, and yeah, I love it, it's great. So before we dig into the songs, a little history on the album. So this was the debut album from ELP, and it was recorded just after they signed to EG Records, and they released the music through Island Records here in the UK. So Keith Emerson and Greg Lake had decided a few months earlier to form a new band. They were joined by Carl Palmer and began touring. And after a successful launch, particularly getting exposure in the Isle of Wight festival, they were offered a record contract. So really the formation of the band and their first album came about fairly quickly, in less than a year. This all happened within the year 1970. Like so many progressive rock albums, there's a lot happening on every track. So much so that I find you can listen to the album numerous times and pick out a new texture or rhythm each time. And they also draw from many composers. So the first track, The Barbarian, is actually an arrangement of Bartók's piano suite, Allegro Barbaro. And it has a very hard rock feel to it, which really suits the nature of the piece very well. It's got it feels quite an angry piece. And it's a good way to open the album because it really gets your attention. It just kicks in, and yeah. Take a Pebble is my personal favourite track on the album. I love the atmosphere it provokes and the percussion that Carl Palmer uses. It has a diegetic quality to it, replicating the ripples of the water. And Greg Lake also has some beautiful lyrics to reflect this idea. Just take a pebble and cast it into the sea, then watch the ripples unfold into me. My face spills so gently into your eyes, disturbing the waters of our lives. It's kind of like the water and the kind of the sense of water and life being as one, and it's just so metaphorical. It's just beautiful. Poetry in the making. Knife Edge is partially based on two further pieces. Firstly, Romantic Czech composer Leoš Janáček's Sinfonietta, and then Johann Sebastian Bach's First French Suite in D minor, which is Baroque. So you've got Romantic and Baroque. So two very different styles of classical music put together in this piece by ELP. And Keith's playing of that passage of the Bach passage is absolutely phenomenal. Greg Lake again provides some very poetic lyrics which he wrote with Richard Fraser, one of ELP's road crew. And I love the whole ending where the whole track just comes to a slow stop. And assuming they got this effect by using vari speed on the original reel-to-reel recording. So it's not something that you can kind of get the same effect with digital, but it just doesn't sound quite the same as reel to reel. It's an effect that works particularly well on reel to reel, and it just really gives a nice ending to side 1 on the album. So on to side 2 now, and it starts with the Three Fates. So the Three Fates is an original an original suite of music by Keith Emerson, which has 3 movements representing each of the fates from Greek mythology. So we have Clotho, I apologise if I don't pronounce these right, Clotho, Lachesis and Atropos. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce this right. Never mind. And so Clotho is performed, the first one, Clotho, is performed on the Royal Festival Hall organ, which really gives a sense of grandeur. And I love any instrumental that is recorded on a big pipe organ. There's nothing quite like it, is there? Lachesis and Atropos are recorded on piano, but Atropos does have a big organ intro. And again, Emerson's piano playing is just virtuosic. Lachesis really fits in with that neoclassical theme and captures the drama with those sweeping arpeggio figures. And Atropos starts with that big organ intro, which I said before, and it goes into repeating complex rhythms with drums accompanying the piano, and really sophisticated jazz feel to that track. All 3 movements sound very different, because the first one, you've got a big organ. The second one is very much piano based with those sweeping arpeggio figures, and the last one very, very jazz influenced. But all 3 movements, even though they're so different, they really hang together really nicely. And listening to it really feels like I'm listening to a concert, like I'm sitting in a concert. And I would have loved to have seen them play it live. It's just, yeah, it just got a magical quality to it. Tank is a fairly heavy sounding track composed again by Keith Emerson, and features an extensive drum solo from Carl Palmer. And, you know, I think Carl Palmer's such a talented drummer. The amount of varying drum and percussion techniques used on this album is impressive. The last song on the album is Lucky Man, which was written by Greg Lake when he was 12 years old, which is very impressive, you know, to write. It's a very sophisticated song. And ELP needed one more track for the album, so they reworked this song, and it was also released as a separate single. It's a catchy song, and it really takes advantage of production techniques at the time. So it has a lot of double-tracked vocals and guitars to give it a very full sound. I love the poetic nature of the lyrics in Lucky Man. That idea of a lucky man, someone to seem to have it all until they die in war. So the title of the track and the whole nature of the lyrics actually becomes quite ironic at the end of the song. So it starts with this is the second verse. White lace and feathers, they made up his bed, a gold-covered mattress on which he was laid. And then the last verse, a bullet had found him, his blood as he cried, no money could save him, so he lay down and died. Ooh, what a lucky man he was. And the synth solo at the end is a great way to give the album that final flourish. I say that with a lot of albums, but I think it's important that you give an album a good ending. So to conclude, this album is a great introduction to the talented trio that is Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. What your thoughts are on this album. Is this your favourite ELP album? Perhaps you have a different one. One of my other favourites is Trilogy, but you might have a different one again. And I do also love Trilogy, and I do want to review that another time, as well as listening in detail to some of ELP's other albums like Brain Salad Surgery. So that's all from my YouTube channel today. I will be back in a couple of weeks for another review. What will I review? Well, you'll have to come back and see, oh, exciting. Don't forget as well to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have lots of other album reviews as well as my visual compositions and links to my other work. Until next time, have a fantastic fortnight. So that's 2 weeks in Britain, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye for now.
Oh, Tina. Tina wants you to subscribe to the YouTube channel too. Look at her. Oh. Oh. She's so cute.